Pfizer ran some trials, really shoddily run on the vaccine itself. And then the last thing we heard is the FDA told the judge that they want 75 years to be able to release that data to the American people.
Jesus. And I said, why are they doing this? And all of a sudden it's a finance answer.
How many people would realize the seriousness of their predicament? And the answer is, this story actually comes from Albert Bartlett, who is a professor of mathematics at Boulder. And he talked about it in terms of bacteria, and I looked at his example, and it's a really important concept. So it's about exponential growth, right? And so exponential growth is this thing that everybody should know about, but none of us do, really.
Right.
And it sounds like math, and here's the thing. We're humans, so we're not wired to understand exponential growth, right? It's like, or nonlinear. Like nonlinear just confuses us. Imagine, somebody throws a baseball, you probably can catch it. It's traveling linear, but if you slip on ice on your front stoop, man, that's going to surprise you, right? Boom, down you go, because you fall as a square function. It's not, so it's math, right? So here's the thing. Exponential growth, we're surrounded by it. We have to know it, but we don't get it. So I use this example. It goes like this. Imagine I have a magic eyedropper. And it's magic because when I put a drop of water in your hand, every minute, that drop of water is going to double, right? So I put a drop of water in your hand. After 1 minute, you have 2 drops. And after 2 minutes, you have 4 drops. After like 5 minutes, you can fill a thimble up. So that's the pace of growth. So here's the example. We're all going to go to a stadium, the biggest stadium you can imagine, like the biggest one you've ever been to, right? Holds 100,000 people. And we're going to make that stadium watertight. I'm going to handcuff you to the highest row of bleacher seats, and there you are. So at 12 o'clock on any given day, there you are, handcuffed, and I put one of these magic drops of water down. And the question is, how long do you have to escape from your handcuffs? Right? I've given this talk, I've said this to probably 10,000 people, I don't know, lots of audiences. And there's maybe 1 or 2 people out of 500 or 600 that get close, but most people think something like, oh, I don't know, it's going to take years, months, days. And the answer is, it takes 50 minutes to fill that stadium up, right? 50 minutes. So let's imagine that you're at a stadium that's twice as big as any stadium I've even conceived of. Well, then it would take 51 minutes, right? Because it doubles. Right. That isn't the important question. Here's the important question. At what time would your stadium still be 97% empty space? And how many people would realize the seriousness of their predicament? And the answer is, 45 minutes into this thing, it's still 97% empty space. It's that last 5 minutes. It's all over. It goes from 3% to 6 to 12 to 25, 50, 100. We're done. Boom, out. And the reason that's important is we have exponential debt in our system. The Federal Reserve is creating exponential amounts of money. We have an exponential loss of water from the aquifers. We're having exponential increases in the use of energy. We're just surrounded by it. And most people don't know it, and unfortunately it's our so-called leaders. I'm putting up air quotes here if people can't see the leaders. They don't get it at all. And they're pretending we live in this linear world, but we don't. And so that's why I tell that story, because I want us to understand where we are in this moment in time. It's a really incredible moment in human history, not American history, like human history. I'm a quick learner, eventually. At first, I was all about this was like the virus, and now I'm looking back on it, and I realize that I think I was duped for a while. I honestly think that China was sending out, remember, I didn't realize how much they controlled everything that comes out of there. So I wasn't aware that I'm consuming all this stuff, and there were these videos of people falling over in the street, just keeling over. And there were pictures of hallways full of dead people. So I thought that's what was coming, right? And now we know that, I think the earliest version of that virus was worse. Of course, they get less bad over time. That's just the nature of viral evolution. So maybe that first alpha version was a little worse, but China was exporting fear to us. And we were buying it. I was buying it.
Right.
I did. And now, I'm so glad to hear you connect those dots, because now I look back and the repo market was blowing up in September. So COVID was the best thing that could have ever happened.
Exactly.
To a Federal Reserve that needed an out to print trillions.
It was a distraction.
Well, it sure worked out that way for them.
Yeah. And they could print.
I'm a coincidence theorist. I hate them.
and they could print more money then.
Not just some more money. The most we've ever seen.
I know. And so your eye drop theory just got to a bigger stadium.
You remember, you know this, right? So there was that, at the end of 2020, it was like money had grown, money had grown 30% in a single year. The total supply of money.
And I said, why are they doing this? And all of a sudden it's a finance answer. For a stock price to go up, you need a new drug.
Mm-hmm.
And so by coming out with, so they censor basically the hydroxychloroquine. They produce these two new vaccines. The stock price goes through the roof.
Yeah, and the whole pharma industry was having trouble because the big major drugs had sort of been found, right? Antibiotics and all this, and they were down to like these really weird orphan drugs where, you know, only a few thousand people get the syndrome, and then they have to charge $400,000 for a dose of it, you know, whatever, right? So their model was really starting to
die, right?
Yeah, over time, and that's okay. You know, maybe that's okay because we'd figured out how to, you know,
get people healthy.
Yeah, as humans, we'd figured this out, and that's good. Like it should be okay that an industry takes itself out of business over time, right? I'm okay with that. They weren't okay with that, and so, you know what? I'm okay. If Pfizer says they want to try and make money, that's okay. But what's not okay is when the people who are supposed to be regulating them are actually not doing that and just helping them. So here's what we know. Pfizer ran some trials, really shoddily run on the vaccine itself. And then the last thing we heard is the FDA told the judge that they want 75 years to be able to release that data to the American people.
Jesus.
They reviewed it in 108 days, but they want 75 years. The year 2096 is when they wanted to release that. Now, a judge just came out and said, no, you have to release 18,500 pages a month, but it's still like 90 days that it's going to take us to begin to see this. That's okay. I'll guarantee you when we get in there, we're going to find things out where we're going to go, what were these regulators doing or not doing? And the answer is going to be really disappointing. So Pfizer gets to make money. They can try and cut corners, but our regulators ought not to have been doing that. But this is a story that people who, you know, watch the CFTC not regulate or be able to see like skullduggery in the silver market, or watching the SEC not understand how hedge funds are like gaming meme stocks or whatever. It's just the whole thing is just one big story now.
Well, JP Morgan suppressed silver and all that other stuff. It goes on all the time.
Yeah, no, they get their wrist slapped, you know, like,
yeah.
And then nothing happens. I still watch the same 2:00 in the morning silver raids.
You're out here. So people are fighting back right now. There's a mass movement going. So what's happening from your? What do you see happening?
Well, this has been one of the greatest. I'm really excited actually at this point in time, and because we're finding out who the real moral giants were, and you know who you can trust, and people are finally waking up, and I think that's a good thing because, as I mentioned, we have these big fourth turning institutional failures. Like it's time to like reset this thing a little bit. I have a different reset in mind than the Davos crowd because it's time for, you know, we've seen these protests all over the place, hundreds of thousands in Melbourne, Germany, France. It's time for people in the United States, I think, we got to get off our butts and get out in public.